ready to watch Dad's Talk Tech?
Not yet. I'm trying to work on my website.
What? Your website?
Yeah, it isn't as easy as you would think.
I know that. I just can't believe you're doing it yourself. Who has time for that?
Well, what should I be doing?
You mean to tell me you're in 2nd grade and you don't know to call Modern Yellow for your website needs?
Well,
I will have Dad put a link below so you and I can get to the show while Dominic at Modern Yellow works on your website.
Thanks, Addie. That is much easier. And now we can watch our favorite show together, Dad's Talk Tech.
Welcome back to the channel and welcome to episode 3. We're in day 3 of our 7 episodes in 7 days marathon. We're really glad you made it back and haven't gotten tired of us yet.
Either that, or it's the first time they're joining us and they've never even seen the first 2 episodes.
Thanks for pointing that out, Keith. Really appreciate it. Today we're going to explain why it's really important to convert your VHS and other magnetic media tape formats into digital to protect your memories. Keith, why don't you tell us your thoughts on the topic?
I kind of forgot what we were talking about. Okay, I know that's bad. But honestly, millions of people probably have old tapes lying around, and they're all dying a slow death right now. The tapes are, not the people, I hope.
Thanks for cutting to the chase there, Keith. That's exactly right. If you have VHS, Betamax, or other magnetic recording media, over time, as they age, they're losing quality due to something called magnetic resonance decay.
Yeah, in simple terms, the tape itself is literally shedding magnetic signal strength over time. Now, there is no exact metric or measurable, quantifiable term that describes exactly how much quality is being lost, but experts say that 10 to 20% of the quality is lost over a 10 to 25 year time frame.
Wow, that's a huge range.
Yeah, it is a huge range. And what's interesting is that articles talk about 10 to 20% quality degradation as being no big deal. But what you have to consider is, when was the last time, think about this as a viewer, when was the last time you or your family actually made a VHS recording, right? Or another format like VHS? It was probably already 10 years ago. In fact, it was probably close to 25 years ago already right now. So you are experiencing that degradation as we speak. And on top of that, consider that those estimates, the 10 to 20% quality loss in 10 to 25 years, that's based on the idea of ideal storage conditions, right? Where it's cool but not cold, and it's dark, and it's very low humidity. So if you don't really have that situation, then you should be concerned.
Great points, Keith. Another factor is how many times these tapes have been played over the years. So, due to the actual physical contact within the tape route in the player itself, you'll actually stretch the media ever so slightly. And because there is physical contact being made, there's actually particles that are being transferred from the tape player path and heads to the tape itself. So, it's important that these players that have been used have been cleaned as often as they've been used would merit. This also means we have another factor contributing to the process of decay, how often they've been played.
Exactly. And that is why when you rented tapes from the video store, and yes, I am that old, I actually did that, but that's why oftentimes when you rented tapes, that they would be really bad quality because a bunch of other people had already rented them and played them, so they'd had lots of uses. And on top of that, let's be honest, a lot of those people who rented videos and played them were probably savages who never cleaned their machines.
I hope we've successfully covered the why you should convert your tapes into digital media, and now we're going to dive into the how.
That sounds good, but it sounds like this could be an expensive process.
Keith, I definitely hear your concern there, and you're right. Going to a service provider that's going to convert your tapes into digital media can be expensive. Most local cities have providers that'll do that type of work for you at varying levels of cost. Now, you could also look at going to a national service provider where you pack up your tapes and you ship them to them. The only danger there is if something happens to your tapes while they're being transported to that provider, then there goes your memories.
So it sounds to me like you're going to show us how to convert the tapes ourselves, I assume?
Keith, there's no getting anything past you. That's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to show them how to convert those tapes to digital media themselves. Keith, let me just start off with a little bit of a warning. Since we are dealing with capturing video, And a lot of these capture devices are actually designed for older operating systems. Getting these to run can be a little bit finicky. And I just want people to be aware there can be challenges getting these hardware devices to work with Windows 10. If you're still on Windows 7, even getting that to work sometimes can be a challenge. I've got an example where I've got two devices that look almost identical. One I can get to work, the other one I can't. So I'm going to try to avoid providing too many hardware-specific recommendations. I will, however, put some links to some devices that you could try. Read the reviews and make sure that if you order one, order it someplace where you can return that device and exchange it for one that's going to work for you, and make sure you test it in a time frame that'll allow you to use that return window.
Okay, I am sufficiently scared. Ness is not scared, but I'm scared.
I completely understand, Keith, and I don't want to scare anyone. I just want everyone to go in with their eyes open if they decide to take on this challenge. After all, there's nothing wrong with getting a local service provider to do the conversion for you. Maybe your time is worth more than what their service fee would be. But those of you that do want to take on this challenge probably have an opportunity to save a little bit of money versus going to a service provider. So with that, are you ready to get started?
All right, let's do this.
Okay, on the screen we have a list of those items that you're going to need. First is the video player that matches the formats that you have. VHS, Betamax, 8mm, whatever it is that you have. Second on our list is a video capture device that at a minimum can capture composite video as well as either mono or stereo audio, and you may want S-video input as well. Many of the capture devices are going to include all of those in one bundle. And then lastly on our list is going to be software that's able to take that input that's coming from the capture device into your computer and convert it into the video format that you want to save.
Okay, this doesn't sound so bad, but what if I don't have a VHS deck to play back my VHS tapes? Can I just go buy one?
Oh, that's a great question, Keith. Yes, you will want to buy one if you don't have a VHS player today. Now, one thing to keep in mind is VHS players have not been made for a long time, so you may have to scrounge around on eBay or find one used. Just be careful. In my own instance, I actually have 3 dead players in the house. I didn't realize that it died. So it is something that you want to take care of, if nothing else, just because the hardware itself is also dying.
You know, I just realized my VHS tapes are not those regular VHS tapes. They're more of those teeny tiny ones. What are those called again?
Oh, Keith, those are VHS-C tapes, and they became popular in the effort to get those camcorders down in size. And so instead of the large VHS tapes being integrated into the camcorder, they went to those mini cartridges or VHS-C format. They make adapters to convert those VHS-C into full-size VHS tapes for playing in a regular player. You don't have that VHS-C converter still, you'll want to locate one of those, again, probably on eBay, or you could use your VHS-C camcorder as well. Alright, we've made the move over to my desk area so that we can do our video capture portion of the episode. And so one of the things I wanted to discuss is video capture devices. So as we prepare to do this process, if you recall, I mentioned that making a recommendation on video capture cards or USB capture devices can be a little challenging, because if you look at these two devices side by side, they look pretty much identical. But I will tell you, I can get this one to work on my machine and this one will not. Even though they look identical, and I think even the chipset should be the same or very, very similar. So that's one of the reasons that I say, make sure that you test that device that you purchased and verify that it's going to work for you. Buy it from some place where you have a good return policy like Amazon, but you don't have to buy exclusively from Amazon. But buy some place where you can return that product if you need to and get one that's going to work on your computer. If you've got Windows 7, Windows 10, you should be in good shape. But again, those are kind of newer operating systems compared to these devices. Some of these devices really have not had any major design changes in 10 to 15 years. And so that is where I think some of the challenges come in place. We're going to use this VHS player for our capture device, or at least our player device. We're going to use a VHS-C tape, which I've got here. It is the mini style cartridge, so when I pull it out of the case, you can see it's much smaller than a normal VHS tape if you've ever seen one. Many of you might not have. And then to play that in our full-size VHS player that we have here, we're going to use an adapter that allows us to put this cartridge in. This simply flips up, you slide the cartridge in, close this door, and now it plays in a regular size VHS player. Now, to give you a frame of reference, the VHS camcorder that we used, actually VHS-C, we used is right here. So this was actually considered a very small camcorder back in the day. And so you could zoom in, you had a flip out screen so you could see what you were recording. And this particular unit actually had a 44 times zoom. So it was actually a pretty nice unit back in 1998. I know exactly when we purchased it because me and my wife were getting married later that year. We wanted to have a camcorder to bring on our honeymoon, and this was the device that we purchased at that time. So yes, we've held on to this camcorder for the last 21 years. Okay, so I have preloaded the VHS-C tape into the VHS-C to VHS converter, and I'm going to go ahead and shut the door. I'm actually going to hold this up here to the microphone, which you can't see, but it's right there, and let you listen to this once I close this door. It's actually going to open up the door of the VHS-C tape and position the tape so it's ready to play inside of the cartridge. Alright, so that is now ready to be played. So we're going to go ahead and put this in the VHS player, and we're going to talk about the process of capturing this video as we go through. Okay, so I've got the tape loaded into the VHS deck player. I've loaded up an application, and I'm just using the non-commercial home use only license for NCH software debut. It's a really nice, lightweight capture program. It does recognize a number of different capture devices, so you can use it for a multitude of applications. They have not sponsored this. I did reach out to them looking for at least a 60 to 90 day license to eval the software. I didn't hear back from them before we needed to shoot. So in this particular case, we'll just live with the watermark and understand that you'll need to license it to get rid of that watermark, which for sure you're not going to want on there. Now, that doesn't mean that you should use this software. Feel free to pick something else, download a trial, see if it's something that's going to recognize your capture device, and if it does, if it's providing the functionality you're looking for, which is basically taking that video input and allowing you to capture it and save it as a file on your system, that's what you're looking for. Alright, we're ready to begin our capture process. So a couple of quick notes. We are going to make sure that we check some settings. First, we want to have our video input device set to device. That device has already been selected as our video capture USB device that is attached currently. Record as, we're going to want to change that. I like MP4, but certainly you could pick what you want. I'm going to pick my encoder options, H.264. And then all of the other settings are absolutely fine. We're going to keep the video options the same, but you can adjust those if you like. And then it's important to remember to go ahead and hit the capture process starting on our computer first. That way we capture everything at the beginning of our tape. And we're going to go ahead and press play on the VHS. And so now we're going to see our video starting.
Several hours later, here's what the floor looks like in the bathroom.
And you can see that our audio is capturing here.
Looks like I had to cut this short because I have a phone call.
So again, our video is capturing here. You may want to mute this
where the water damage was.
if you're recording and you're going to have this running for an extended period of time.
Problems for the new subfloor.
So I'm going to go ahead and stop this video here because that's probably enough to illustrate what we're doing.
That'll do it for now. We'll check on this in a couple hours after we get the new subfloor on.
So I'm stopping that, and I'm going to stop the video on the VHS. And now, in order to find where our recording is, we just simply go into the recordings, and we should find our 12 meg file here. It is going to be the one, it's the MP4 that we created. And so let's go ahead and open up that folder. So we can just hit that videos folder, and it's going to show us the folder with the file. And then we can certainly then open up that file, and you'll see that it's what we just captured.
Okay, several hours later, here's what the floor looks like.
So here's our video that we captured. We can then bring this into whatever editing program we want and edit this video.
So in watching this process work, it really seems like the initial setup is the tricky part.
It really is, honestly. Now after we've captured the video, we're going to have a digital version in either an AVI, MPEG, MOV file format on our computer. And then our next step is going to be to edit that video, potentially add titles to it. You know, in the old days, I probably would have suggested that we get a DVD burning software package, but many people are moving away from the DVD format or disc formats in general. But I'm going to cover what's probably going to be the most common case, which is finding some software that's going to allow us to add titles, maybe transitions, and do a little bit of editing on our videos to make it a little bit more interesting. Now there's some great, inexpensive, and free options available to you today. One thing I would caution you is if you do look at free software, make sure that you look at the terms, really look at the terms, because there are many free software packages out there that start free, but once you've edited the video and you go to output them, they're going to put what's called a watermark, or basically their name all over your video. And the only way to get rid of that watermark is to purchase their software. And that may or may not be a big deal to you, but if you went in thinking it was going to be free and then you have to pay, a lot of times that creates a lot of disappointment and anger. So just make sure that if the free software you're looking at using is actually free. If you need to, just make a really short video, don't do any editing, and just try and output that. And that'll tell you if it's going to have a watermark or not. Now to be completely upfront, Pinnacle Studio hasn't given us any money to do this. That just happens to be the software that I've used for a number of years. Currently they're on version 22 and they just released version 23, which I have not upgraded to yet. I'm actually transitioning so that the work I do for YouTube is actually all done in DaVinci Resolve, but some of my personal projects will actually be done still in Pinnacle Studio. Pinnacle Studio offers a fairly complete package in terms of the number of transitions, titles, and all of the things you would need to create a home video. So it's probably one I would recommend that you take a look at, because it's going to give you probably a little bit easier interface to learn than DaVinci Resolve is. And it's going to give you a lot of effects and titles and everything bundled right into the software versus DaVinci. In order to get those more advanced features, you're going to, one, need the studio version, which is $299, and then to locate some additional add-on transitions, probably purchase from people that make that content for pay.
I imagine you can even add music, but bear in mind, if you upload your video to a sharing site like YouTube, for example, that you only share it with specific family members or friends, or that you just leave it unlisted or private, especially if you're using copyrighted music. Now, a lot of the video editing programs out there will have royalty-free music, so in theory you could just use that. But either way, you might want to make sure that you watch the permissions and how you share it. Otherwise, you might end up being a bigger hit on YouTube than you originally intended to be.
Great point, Keith. Absolutely use caution sharing your videos with friends and family, especially if you're using copyrighted music. Getting your video uploaded to a sharing site is a great way to back it up, but be careful, you're only sharing it with the people you want to.
Yeah, no one wants a repeat of that rubber ducky bathtub incident again.
Keith, I'm not even sure what that means, but it's time to wrap things up anyway.
Thanks everyone for joining us for episode 3. I really hope people found Bruce's ramblings useful.
Yes, and we have 4 more days of rambling. I mean episodes. 4 more days of episodes. Be sure to hit like and subscribe.
Hey, my dad said to like and subscribe. I want that like button lighting up like the 4th of July sky.
You also need to ring the bell like this to get notified when there are new videos.
Well, you heard Lily and Addie. You know what to do. For Bruce and Keith, thank you, and we'll see you next episode.